Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Mentor Moments podcast. My name is Braden Wooters, and I'm joined by our co-host, Dr. Michael Keener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. As you know, this season we've been chatting a lot about leadership, technology, career development, and just counseling as a profession. We hope you enjoy this episode and keep tuning in to Mentor Moments.
Joining us on this episode is Elizabeth Perkins.
Elizabeth is the coordinator of programs for Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation. All right, Elizabeth, tell us about your professional journey. How did you start? What pivotal moments or experiences shaped your career journey?
For sure. All right. Let's just start with my undergrad. When I went to college, I got a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was a couple classes shy from a business degree too. So I had that background. And while I was in college, I worked for UPS. So United Parcel Service, the big brown trucks right out delivering all the packages. I worked in the office, and my job was literally to take all of the multiple complaints that we got and help customers, find where their package was, help get messages conveyed, etc. So that's where I got some, for sure, customer service skills. There's nothing like a very upset customer who cannot find their package, right? Well, anyway, I say all this to say I was working there while I was getting my undergrad degree. And when I graduated, they offered me a job in human resources. And I wasn't sure of the next direction I wanted to go. I had debated, because like I said, I had an undergrad in psychology. I debated going in the counseling route or going that route. I'd also debated human resources, even like industrial psychology, right? I had a friend that told me she was going to go on and get her master's in counseling. And she was kind of like, either you're coming or you're staying, right? And so I'm like, I can't not do it, right? And I wanted to do it with someone. So I took the leap and I got my master's degree in counseling, and I went to Webster University. And while I was there, I had no idea what vocational rehabilitation even was. And I had an instructor named Earl Brown. And Earl Brown at the time was the supervisor at the Rolla Vocational Rehabilitation Office. And he told me, he said, you would make a really great vocational rehabilitation counselor. And I said, tell me what that is. And the rest was history. As soon as I graduated, as soon as a job opened up, I applied for that. And I have been with the agency ever since for 20 years. And they haven't got sick of me yet. So that kind of tells you a little bit about where I started. When I started, Earl actually went to the VA VR, so he left and went and worked with a federal job. But now he's back, and he's one of our MU specialists. So it's kind of a full circle to see that. I spent 13 years as a counselor in the Jefferson City office. And to this day, I will say that was the best job I ever had. I have a shirt that says I love my job, and I did love that. I loved being able to be where the people were. I loved being able to be out in communities and schools, working with participants, their families, their support system. It really rooted me. It grew me as a person. But during my time as a counselor, I definitely had the itch a few times to want to do more. And I remember I had a participant who said to me, he was an individual who had some significant disabilities. He was in high school, and during the day, they would never do this today in 2023, but back then he spent part of the day in high school and part of the day in the workshop in sheltered employment. And he told me, he said, my dream job is to work in a junkyard. And so I'm like, we've got to get this guy a job, right? He can do more. He can work competitively. He can be in the community. And so we got him a job working at a recycling center. And I was like, we've got to find a way to highlight this. We've got to share the story. People need to know who we are. And that really, really sparked kind of a passion in me to spread the word. I feel people sometimes just make decisions. And this was a small town guy who maybe didn't have a lot of options. And you think that's just where he's destined, right? Or that's the limited pathways they have. And so I wanted to spread that. So I talked to my coworker, my work best friend, Samantha Heckemeyer, and I talked to my regional manager at the time. And Samantha and I went out and we made a video, and not only him, but other individuals who we were working with to just highlight them, highlight their employers. And that kind of sparked something in me to want to, again, make sure we find a way to spread the word and share who we are and tell the story. That's something that I think that to this day, that's really important to me, to tell the story. So that sparked that. Also just involvement with different partners, whether it be schools and our community rehabilitation providers, our workforce providers. I spent a lot of time in our job center and our family support office at the time, and just getting to know those partners. That also really sparked an interest in me in wanting to do more with our partners. And so eventually a position came open, and I became the community rehabilitation provider director, and from there manager. And today I'm in my position where I'm working well with all of our programs, and I couldn't be happier and feel pretty lucky and blessed to be where I'm at, but also to be working with the multiple teams and those individuals that work on those teams. And it's truly all of the things I wanted in love. That's a lot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say all of those things.
It's your story. Tell it.
It is my story, but it's like,
and that's why we're here at this podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah. But I do it all, like, I think it all comes full circle is what I'm trying to say. But I go back to those counseling roots and place a lot of value in that, and still to this day say that was the best job ever.
Well, there are so many things there. Like I wish people could see your smile when you're talking about your career and what you do. That, you know, it would really also add to your passion and love for the position. And I also think back to, you know, listening to people complain about not getting their package. Is that really how you learned your counseling skills right there, right? how to listen and empathize and validate. And...
Yeah.
I guess my final point listening to that, you know, somebody that has taught career development and sort of the theory of planned happenstance, that, you know, we can plan to go to school and get this degree, and then this happenstance, so like just, you know, kind of getting the job at UPS, or having your friend say, no, you're going back to school with, you know, so great. I guess that's, life isn't linear, right? We try to plan, and then just these happenstance moments happen. And again, that's what makes me kind of excited about that. So you sort of, oh, go ahead. Were you gonna?
No, I was gonna say I agree. I think you know, you could say things happen for a reason, but I think that it's you don't know what you don't know until you get exposed to something, right? And that's where we develop those interests, or even those dislikes. But it does help build and shape us into who we are and the direction that we're going.
Well, again, now even just saying that makes me think of sort of the multiple leaps of faith you've had already in answering one question, right? Well, yeah, I'll go back to school. Well, yeah, I'll try voc rehab. Yeah, you know, that's great. It shows that perseverance or curiosity and dedication. So I bet you're a joy to work for as well, right? So.
Oh, I hope so. I hope. I like to have fun. And I am lucky. I feel very lucky. I say that a lot, but I truly feel very lucky. Like, pinch me on who I get to work with and where I get to work.
So in your view, what are some key qualities or attributes that make an effective professional?
Well, the first thing I think of is I think we have to be adaptive. You know, I don't know if I would say a chameleon totally, but to be in our work where we work with so many kinds, right? So many different types of people and interests and walks of life. And one of the things I do love is I love personalities. And I truly believe that it takes, you know, all the different personalities to make the rainbow, right? And that we need that. You don't want everybody to be alike. We don't ever want everyone to think alike. So I think a good leader is somebody who can be adaptive, to work with your team, to work with your partners. I think that's really important. I also think that not only being a team player, but just recognizing that we need each other. There's so much work that we can't do it alone. And you have to have a really good rapport with your team. You have to trust your team. You have to be transparent in what we do in order to get all of the things done. And that's really important to me. I think the biggest thing though, for me as a person, and I hope this in anyone I get to work with or have any kind of interpersonal relationship with, is genuity. And I think when we are just to the core real of who we are, that it just makes it so much easier to work through those difficult situations, right? Those uncomfortable situations. And it just, you have that trust. It makes it easier to have fun too, and to celebrate. But that's just important to me for me to be able to be myself around those that I work with, and for my teammates and my colleagues to feel like they can be like that with me. And then also collaborating. Like I said, there's too much work. There's all this work that needs to get done. And it's kind of like a square dance, right? Grab your partner because we need each other. And in order to do the things that we need to do, we need to think about how can we sit around a table and do it more effectively with each other. And that includes all of our partners out there, whether it's, workforce, mental health, our providers, whomever it is that we're working with. That's also incredibly important, to have those collaborative partnerships that are successful, that we foster, we grow, we build. And I know I've talked to you a little bit about this before, but those social networks are just critical because they build on each other. We utilize them, and they come in really handy when you need something, right? You need something, you need an answer, you need help getting something done, accomplished, you need a contact, whatever it is. That's really important. And I think the other thing is, we were at a national conference a few weeks ago, and someone had this analogy. I think we have to be innovative and open to change for sure. And they talked about, we were talking about the Rehab Act. It's been 50 years, right? One of the directors, a VR director, told this analogy. She talked about how if you have a house that's 50 years old, and you don't take care of your house, you don't make any changes to the house, you don't do anything, it needs upkeep. It might need some renovating, remodeling, etc. Your house it's not going to sustain, right? Times are changing. And it's kind of like that saying, what is it? Old keys don't unlock new doors, right? And so I think that we have to be really receptive and open to innovation and change. And I love innovation. I love change. And, we just have to make sure our house is in order, and we can't have this old house. We need this. I keep thinking we need this accessible house, right? This house that we've changed, we've incorporated universal design, all the things, but that's what we need. And I think that's really, really important and helps us stay relevant in the work that we're doing.
I mean, what great tips for all our listeners. And I'm wondering, how did you come to these sort of principles or these qualities, or is there one you really see that you embraced more, and were they modeled from trainings?
I think in the work, if I think about on the program side, the work that we're doing, I do think that the collaboration and the partnering, that's really important to me. And the teams that I work with, they all collaborate, they all work with partners. And I think that is something that I spend a good chunk of my time on. My team spends a good chunk of their time on. And that's really, really important because, obviously we can't operate in silos. And again, we need each other.
Well, yeah, and then that leads to innovation when we're not in silos. And I'm going just again, I know I'm just reiterating, but the collaboration and those relationships, as you already stated, to build the social networks and social capital, and it just makes it, I don't want to say easier, but when you have more resources, you have a potential to be able to do more.
Yeah, right? It's definitely not easier. I think that, like any relationship, it takes time and dedication. You have to build it, right?
Right.
But once you get there, it's this well-oiled machine, and things go smoother, whether it's communication, work processes, whatever. It's worth the dedication and the time that you need to put into making it, to get it there.
I was just sort of kind of going off of that. I was doing a little career counseling with a student, and thought about it overnight and then just made some connections to some graduates to say, hey, you need to talk to this person, right? And let's build networks on both sides. He hopefully would benefit from your career journey. Doesn't have to, do it alone, right? Get out of that silo. Doesn't have to make the same mistakes as other people did. All that kind of mentoring. But anyways.
You were being a mentor. Yeah. You were having your mentor moment. Your mentor moment. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So leadership can take many forms, right? Are there theories or models or philosophies that you sort of cling to, or your own theory? What sort of guides you when you have to make a tough decision or make an easy decision for that matter?
Like, I really like transformational leadership. And I think that's a lot of, the leadership books and a lot of chunk of what we hear about, all these qualities kind of fall under that transformational leadership bucket. But I also really like authentic leadership. And I feel like I'm a little bit more pulled towards that. I feel like they're connected. I feel like it's almost a spinoff of and that's just me talking, not something I read when I say it comes off from transformational. But I think I think it's important to be to be transparent with each other, to be genuine, but to really, you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve. People know where you are. People know what your values are, what you stand for, and where you're going. And you communicate that. You should communicate that really effectively with those that you're working with. I think that being authentic and having that leadership style just goes really deep, and that people can sense it, that you're working with. And I think that's important to me above and beyond anything, to gain that trust that's so needed to be able to work together and to have, it's almost like as a leader, the individuals that you're working with, they're benefiting, but you're benefiting from them as well, right? And it's that loop. And I know there's probably a better name for that, but it just keeps kind of circling back and building. You build off of each other. And I think it really defines the leadership style that I like and that I want with those that I'm working with.
Yeah, so the symbiotic relationship, right?
Yes, that's the big word. Thank you. Yes.
I get paid to have big words. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
That's why I'm the podcast host.
Absolutely. But the other thing I will say is I definitely think that I am solution focused. And if there's something that needs to be done, I have been known to challenge the system or challenge the process. And when I say that in a way of, I like good trouble, and meaning just because we've done something a certain way for so long, whether it be a legacy rule or we think we should do that, as I've grown older and wiser, have felt more confident in asking and challenging that. Why are we doing it that way? And even, getting that feedback from partners, team members, etc., on, how could we do it? What are ways we could do it different?
As we're talking here, I'm going to go off script here on this next question and thinking about what messages did you get that you said, yeah, I don't mind going for the promotion or to become a leader, and, knowing that there's sort of extra responsibility, what do you account for your desire from that perspective?
I think it's truly comes back to wanting to be part of the overall solution and help make change happen, and know that through my experiences and hopefully through my leadership and my drive, that we can navigate through those things.
You had the smile before, and now, again, it was, my teacher mind, I can see you're thinking through this. So this is awesome. I can just see your thoughtfulness. So this next question sort of evolves as well. So, and you kind of alluded to this already. So right, in our dynamic and changing world, how do you stay adaptive or current or innovative? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely think by being involved with groups and organizations that support your beliefs, right? Your beliefs, your values, and support are part of the bigger change that you want to be part of. And so I personally am involved with the MRA board, which I love. I'm also a part of the Missouri APSE board. So that's the Association for People Supporting Employment First. And that too is important to me. I am part of a workforce board, and I'm also part of a local Senate Bill 40 board. So I think you have to know like what's happening around, and I say this around the field of disability employment, or just employment, in general, for individuals with barriers. And I think to be, relevant, what's happening locally, what's happening statewide, and what's happening on a national level, and to know those things, right? Because those are important things when we're working on programs and we're thinking about those decisions that have to be made. And just knowing the context, I think being part of those associations, and it also helps build that network that we've talked about. That's really, really critical, right? That's that social capital, and those social connections build your network and expand your knowledge base. All of those things have been really important in my life in helping me understand things and perspective. I mean, I can think I know something, but hearing it firsthand from yourself, or somebody else on a board, or a parent advocate, or it helps give perspective. It helps me better understand what's happening, and I think it just makes us better humans to be part of those organizations. And advocacy is really important to me too. That's definitely that. The other thing, of course, is just trainings. And I know there's a plethora of trainings right now, but I think finding the right training that you think is going to impact the work that you're doing, build your knowledge. Huge fan of obviously another MRA plug. You get access to the Journal of Vocational Rehabilitation. So having access to that new information that's coming, those studies, anything that's out there can just help us grow as leaders. I also went back to school, and I'm in my last year. It feels so good to say that. Last year of school. So that's been good for me. And then I think the other thing is, just having really good dialogue and feedback with your colleagues and teammates, because feedback is how we also get better, whether it's constructive feedback, it's validating feedback, it's celebratory feedback, whatever it is, we have to be able to give and receive. And I think that also helps me stay relevant as a person, a parent, as a leader, all those things.
As a fellow, we're board members, right? Together on
Yes.
the state board, right? And
Yes.
And like we've been spending a lot of time this year, like, how do we increase participation, membership, and why, we're trying to capture why people are involved, and like you just said it so wonderfully there. And to me, maybe what's not heard, at least from your perspective, it was you have an intrinsic value in being part of an organization, right? That they're, again, as you kind of started off, it's being part of something that's sort of bigger than yourself, that you have values that are aligned, and then kind of you wrapped up by also saying there's this advocacy, social justice advocacy piece as well. And if somebody's out there listening to this and just taking a chance, right? Just come to a meeting, just go up, right? Who knows what will happen? So I don't know. There's my pitch, right? So
I love it.
So again, we're Mentor Moments here as the title. We've probably had formal and informal mentors, role models. So can you tell us about someone who has significant impact on your journey, and sort of what lessons did you learn from them?
Can I just give a shout out to
Sure.
one of my most favorite people, and that's Dolly Parton. So you can't see well, you can probably see it. No one else can. I have my mug here. It says, "In Dolly we trust." But I do a huge Dolly Parton fan, and Dolly, I just want to be Dolly. She's nice and kind, and just gets along with everyone. Yeah, right. So there's Dolly. I struggle with finding I have this one person, if you will, that really shaped my life, or that I think of. There's a lot of people for sure. When I think about my journey, when I think about where I am today, there's so many people, so many colleagues and supervisors that I've had that have pushed me, or family members or friends. I do go back to one person. When I was a VR counselor, I think about where I made that transition, right? Or I decided I wanted to take on more, or go, I'm going to say take on more, but take on different roles, and go into leadership. And I think about Carrie Wilson. She was my regional manager at the time, and Carrie is for me, it was a door opener, right? She opened doors, and whenever I would ask questions and, say, well, why can't we do this, or could we incorporate this new program? Like, for example, we developed an internship program for Wonderland Camp, and it started with a conversation with Carrie, and she's like, well, we've never done that. Of course, I was like, why not? And so it led to, well, let's get together, and with another colleague, let's write up what that would look like. Let's talk about it. Let's present it to our leadership team. And we did that. Or whether it was the idea of, let's get a video together to highlight who VR is and what we can do and what change looks like. Okay, let's do it. I could go on with a handful of things, but she definitely opened that door, kind of lit that fire for me, right? And was very supportive in my journey along the way. So definitely a shout out to her. A few years back, I had the opportunity to participate in NRLI, which is the National Rehabilitation Leadership Institute. And at the time, Fred Schroeder was part of that institute. I think he's hung his hat up maybe now doing that. But he, at one point in time when Bill Clinton was president, he was the commissioner for Rehabilitation Services Administration. So anyway, just a little context on who he is. We'd have these meetings with him, and I can't remember exactly what I presented or what I brought to his attention we were talking about, but it was something where I felt stuck. And I know we were probably talking about regulations or rules or policy or something. And of course I'm like, well, this is what it says. And, I don't know how to do anything different because this is what it says. And he said, and I wrote this down, and I have it on a Post-it in my office. He said, Elizabeth, don't let boundaries limit your imagination. And that is so, so true. I think about that today. I think about that when we're working on, new initiatives or we're stuck, is just to remember that, because it's easy to kind of read the black and white and just, okay, it is what it is. And so that was a mentor moment for me, for sure. And then I also think that the individuals that we serve, and I go back to my counseling hat, and when I was a counselor, the most inspiration I've gotten from anything or anyone is those folks that have came through our door that didn't know where their life was going, what they were going to do, just knew they felt stuck, they felt hopeless. And we have these really great connections that we build and time that we spend with them to help them. We do all the vocational guidance and counseling, right? And they evolve, and they eventually get a job in this field, and they go on to being self-sufficient and reliable and drive and get cars and build houses or get homes and married and children, all these different things that happen. And that is the most inspiring thing to me today, is to see those individuals in the community thriving, and to hear how our services and the work that we've done has been such an impact. And that today is truly what drives me to want to do the work that we're doing day in and day out, because we need more of that.
You left me speechless there. That was awesome. I just think, again, the people who get to work with you every day are, you're turning it forward or paying it forward now as well. So I just want to, again, thank you for that.
Well, again, just lucky to get to do, to be in the field and to work with such amazing people. But yeah, it definitely gets me emotional. It's super rewarding.
Obviously, disability, inclusion are huge parts of our world as rehabilitation counselors. So, as a leader, how do you encourage diversity and inclusion within your team? Maybe again on a broader perspective than just disability. And you already kind of alluded to, we don't we need this diversity. We don't want everybody who is the same, right? But
Right.
so what are the benefits you see from fostering a diverse and inclusive?
We need all kinds of kinds. Yeah. I think, again, I keep going back to this, just genuity, to be us, to feel like we can be our own authentic selves, right? That's important to me. Be as non-judgmental as possible, to help destigmatize and I also think that we are better together. We learn from each other, and embracing our differences just helps make us more whole. I also think that part of, being more inclusive, especially for us in the disability field, is normalizing disability. And I think that we need to be constantly making intentional to make it part of the conversation. And that includes even disclosure. And I have to do that myself. I am a person with bilateral hearing loss. I've had it my entire life. And I haven't always done a good job of sharing, other than when I can't hear something, or just being in those spaces where communication is challenging. But again, as I've gotten older and wiser, I've learned that by sharing and disclosing, it's helping the others around me feel that they can do the same. And I went to a conference recently and really sat back and started to see how we as a community are starting to help normalize that. And when the speakers would share, they wouldn't just share their background necessarily. They would share, some of them were persons with disabilities, and they would share that. And I thought that was just a really great way to help normalize that and just help making sure disability is part of diversity. In fact, it makes me think about, I've got a sticker on my computer that I got from our friends at Starkloft that says diversity includes disability. And I think we just need to be part of making sure that that's happening.
Yeah, it makes me think about, when I first started teaching, and going through my master's program, person first language was all was the hot topic. And not that anything's wrong with person first, but again, so much now we're talking about disability or identity first, and again, as you're saying, normalizing the disability that you have as sort of a value difference, or just something that makes up who you are. So again, there's just that, again, how we're sort of evolving, right, and changing and embracing and making it, again, more of part of every day versus changing the language to make it fit somebody else's terminology.
Right, absolutely. And I think that it just helps us, it gives us that lens of how we can be more accessible and accommodating in our conversations, in the spaces that we're in. I think it just helps us all grow too. And by being able to have that open dialogue about that, you gain so much more and learn so much more by doing that versus reading about it somewhere. And so I think that's really important. And I want people to feel like they can be like that around me, and then I can be like that around them too.
So we would love to hear your mentor moment.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I love to do is to ask people what their why is. Why are you in this field? Why are you doing what you're doing? And remembering that. And we had this, pre-COVID, we had our community rehabilitation provider summits across the state. And one of the things I did, and I have pictures of this, it's so cool, is I asked everyone to take a Post-it and write down their why. And we put them on these big, huge, gigantic posters across the rooms of these events that we had across the state. And we saw everyone's collective why. And it was so empowering. It was so amazing. It was emotional. It was all of the things, right? So as far like a homework piece, is to take a Post-it, write down your why, and slap it on your computer, your wall by your computer, whatever, to remember why you got into this and what you're doing. And remember it on those days that you feel really spent, you are exhausted, you are tired, you're frustrated. Just remember why you are in the field, and it'll help hopefully reframe your day and center you to be able to keep on keeping on, because we've got lots of work to do still.
I think that that's really applicable for anyone in any like stage of their careers.
Sure.
Elizabeth, we couldn't thank you more for making this episode so awesome.
Aw, thanks. I've had fun. I always enjoy chatting with you.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mentor Moments. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Be sure to follow us at Mentor Moments on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we will see you on the next episode of Mentor Moments.
Are you ready for a career that makes a difference in your community? Consider becoming a counselor with Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation.
Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor helps people who have disabilities find a career path that helps to use their strengths. When people have the supports that they need, it makes anything possible.
I am proud that I'm able to help people change their life and reach for their dream goals.
Discover the change you can make. Visit mvr.mo.gov to get started.